Because there are so many choices we can make when improvising, it is sometimes hard to know what to use over a certain chord. Now, if you would summarize all the options for all the chords we come across, you need to make a serious study to learn them all, and lots of time to practice too. Therefore, I'm making this series of videos, each covering the most used possibilities for improvising over a particular 7 chord. I will cover the major 7, the minor 7, the dominant 7, the augmented 7 chords and the diminished 7 chords. In part 1 we have seen how to choose our strategy when improvising over major 7 chords. In part 2 we have covered the minor 7 chord, and in this part 3 we'll explore the possibilities for the dominant 7 chords. Now, this dominant 7 chord is maybe the most interesting chord to improvise over, because it has so many color variations. Also, this video will be split in 2, because the possibilities of dominant chords are vast. The first video will cover the scales, and in the second video the arpeggios. So, heads up and let's get started. First, let's do a quick summary of the 7 chords. Now, you can skip to the next chapter if you already know the structure of these chords. Now, 7 chords are built on major, augmented, minor or diminished triad. The 7 chords on the major triad are the major 7 and the dominant 7 chord. Now, the major 7 chord has a major 7th degree and the dominant 7 chord has a minor 7th degree. The major 7 chord is a typical tonic chord of the major scale, while the dominant 7 chord is an unstable chord on the 5th degree of that major scale and wants to resolve to the tonic. The 7 chord on the augmented triad is most likely a dominant 7 sharp 5 chord. This is also an unstable chord that wants to resolve just like the dominant 7 chord. The 7 chords on the minor triad are the minor 7 chord and the minor major 7 chord. The minor 7 chord has a minor 7th degree. The mysterious sounding minor major 7 chord has a major 7th degree. And this chord can be found as a tonic chord in the melodic minor and harmonic minor scale. The 7 chords on the diminished triad can be a half diminished chord or a full diminished chord. The half diminished chord has a minor 7th degree and is also called a minor 7 flat 5 chord. It can be found on the 7th degree of the major scale. The full diminished chord has a diminished 7th and is also called a symmetrical chord, consisting only of minor triads. Now, after this short recap, we can immerse ourselves into the colorful world of the dominant chord. Now, the dominant 7th chord is built on a major triad by adding the minor 7th degree. So when we analyze the intervals that are confined in this chord, we'll see a stack of third intervals. A major third, CE, a minor third, EG, and again a minor third, G, B flat. Now, the major third E and the minor 7 B flat form a so-called tritone, which is an augmented fourth interval, and this interval is highly unstable and wants to resolve outwards to a minor 6th interval, which is the inversion of a major third interval. And this third interval happens to be a part of the tonic chord. And this makes that the dominant 7 chord on the 5th degree of a diatonic major scale resolves to the tonic in a logical way. Now, although this chord has a need to resolve, it can be used as a tonic chord in the Mixolydian mode. Blues, for instance, is common to alter the tonic chord and subdominant chord, the 4th degree, to a dominant 7 chord. And this creates a constant non-resolving tension that characterizes the blues music. Now, for sure is that this dominant chord is spicy and the possibilities are many. So we have some work to do. Time to explore the first option, the pentatonic scale. Any dominant 7 chord can be treated with a juicy pentatonic scale. Now, whether you play a minor or a major pentatonic scale, both will work fine to get that blues sound going for you. Now, the 5-note counting minor pentatonic scale is derived from the 7-note counting diatonic minor scale, with the 2nd and the 6th degree removed. Now, the minor pentatonic scale will sound more like blues than the major pentatonic scale, because of the minor 3rd and the minor 7th that will result in more tension than notes of the major pentatonic scale. The minor 3rd will clash with the major 3rd of the dominant chord, which creates that typical blues sound. In standard blues licks, the minor 3rd is often followed by the major 3rd to end on the root note of the chord. And of course, we can add the blue note for even more tension. Now, here are scale diagrams for this pentatonic minor scale with an addition of that blue note. So, when we play the A minor pentatonic scale over an A dominant 7 chord, the notes of the A minor pentatonic scale become the root, the minor third or sharp 9, the perfect fourth or 11th, the blue note becomes the diminished 5th or sharp 11, the perfect 5th, and finally the flat 7th. And this is how it sounds like. Now this major pentatonic scale fits the dominant chord theory-wise better than the minor pentatonic scale. It's derived from the diatonic major scale with 2 notes removed, the 4th and the 7th degree. The result is the 5-note counting pentatonic major scale. Now there are less tension notes and thus it's a safer choice. It has also some nice color tones like the 9th and the 13th. It's an absolute legitimate choice and many guitarists use it over a dominant chord. Now you could also add the minor third, and this will give you a touch of minor blues and can sound surprising when used sparsely. Here are the scale diagrams for the pentatonic major scale with an addition of that minor third. Now in an improvisation it sounds like this. Now, the Mixolydian scale or Mixolydian mode is the 5th mode of the major scale. So the A Mixolydian scale is derived from the D major scale, because A is the 5th note in the key of D major. Now the scale that is created is a major scale with a minor 7th degree. And this minor 7th degree is what sets the scale apart from the plain A major scale, which has a major 7th degree. Now the tonic of a Mixolydian scale is a dominant 7 chord. How convenient! Because this means that the Mixolydian scale is an ideal candidate for improvising over dominant chords. Now, no wonder that the scale is sometimes called the dominant scale instead of the Mixolydian scale. Here are the diagrams for the Mixolydian scale. And keep in mind that these patterns are the same as the diagrams for the major scale of which a Mixolydian scale is derived from. Only the tonal center changes to become the Mixolydian scale. So, to easily find the pattern of the A Mixolydian scale, we can think of the parent scale D major, because A is the 5th note in the D major scale. Now the A Mixolydian scale sounds like this over an A dominant chord in a musical context. The pentatonic scale and the Mixolydian scale are the usual suspects when improvising over a dominant 7 chord. And although it's absolutely fine to use these scales, there are some other great options out there to add to your vocabulary. Now in the next part of this lesson, we will explore those alternatives and see how they sound and how to put them to use. Now the major pentatonic scale is derived from the diatonic major scale by removing the 4th and the 7th degree. A similar technique is used when with the Mixolydian scale to create a dominant pentatonic scale by removing the 4th and 6th degree from that Mixolydian scale. The result is a scale that contains the notes of the dominant 7 chord, the root, the major 3rd, the 5th and the minor 7th, with an addition of the 9th. So the dominant pentatonic scale is much like a dominant 9 arpeggio, though played like this it feels more like a pentatonic scale. In comparison to the major pentatonic scale, we'll notice that this dominant pentatonic scale has a minor 7th instead of a major 6th. And therefore, the major pentatonic scale can be used over dominant 7 chord as well as over major 7 chords. The dominant pentatonic scale, however, can only be used over dominant chords with a minor 7th degree. The scale diagrams of the dominant pentatonic scale look like this. And here's an example of the use of the dominant pentatonic scale. Now, a colorful and effective alternative for the Mixolydian scale is the Lydian dominant scale. It's basically a Mixolydian scale with an augmented fourth degree. And that raised fourth degree makes the scale a lot more interesting than the meat and potatoes of the Mixolydian scale. Now, here's the scale over a dominant chord. The sharpened fourth degree is also the sharpened 11th degree. And therefore, this scale is very suitable for playing over dominant 7 sharp 11 chords. Now, to put this scale in practice, you'll have to understand that this scale is the fourth mode of a melodic minor scale. So to play the A Lydian dominant scale, we have to use patterns of the E melodic minor scale. Keep in mind though that A is the tonal center and not E. Here are some scale diagrams for the Lydian dominant scale. You'll see the tonic of the Lydian dominant scale and the root of the melodic minor scale of which the Lydian dominant scale is derived from in different colors. Now, I made a dedicated tutorial about this Lydian dominant mode, so check that out if you want to study the scale in depth. Here's an example in a backdoor progression using the Lydian dominant over a dominant chord on the flat 7th degree. Dark-sounding Phrygian scale is the third mode of the major scale and becomes a minor scale with a flattened 2nd degree. Now, the dominant Phrygian scale is the same as the Phrygian scale, but now it has a major third. The result is a dark-sounding scale with a dominant 7th chord as the tonic. This makes it the perfect candidate for improvising over dominant chords. Now, the Phrygian dominant scale is the 5th mode of the harmonic minor scale. And to make it easier for you, just think of playing the harmonic minor scale of which the tonic of the dominant chord you wish to improvise over is the 5th note. So, play D harmonic minor over the A dominant 7th chord. The result is an A Phrygian dominant scale. Now, I made a dedicated tutorial for the harmonic minor scale and her modes, and also a video about the Phrygian dominant scale. So, check these out if you're interested in these subjects. Now, the scale has 3 half steps and it has also an interval of 1.5 steps between the 2nd and the 3rd degree, which gives the scale its distinct character. Now, here's the scale over a dominant chord. Now, the scale could be seen as a Mixolydian scale with a flat 9 and flat 13 interval, and therefore it's sometimes called the Mixolydian flat 9 flat 13 scale or mode. Because of this, the scale can also be used over a dominant flat 9 and dominant flat 13 chord. Here's an example of the scale when used in a progression where it's played over the backdoor chord, the dominant flat 7th degree. F, D minor, B flat and E flat dominant 7. The dominant diminished scale is a symmetrical scale that consists of altering half steps with whole steps starting with the half step. Therefore, it's also called the half-whole diminished scale. Now, here's the scale played over a dominant 7th chord. tonic of this scale can either be a full diminished chord, a half diminished chord, and a dominant 7 chord. So lots of tangent notes that can be used over the dominant 7 chord when you want to highlight, for instance, the flat 9, the sharp 9, the sharp 11 or the major 13th. And as you can see in the diagrams, the patterns are easy to learn because of the symmetrical character of the scale. Now here's an example of the half-whole diminished scale over a dominant chord. Now the whole tone scale is definitely one of my favorites. The undefined and dreamy sound of this 6-note counting scale is a good choice over an altered chord, like the dominant sharp 5 chord. But also over a plain dominant chord, this scale is a colorful choice, and it will result in a bit of an outside sound. The distances between the notes are all whole steps, which leaves us with a 6-note or hexatonic scale with no leading tones, and thus no tonal center, because there is absolutely no gravity towards a tonic chord. You could see the whole tone scale as a repeating augmented chord every whole tone. With these augmented shapes, you can make whole tone lines to get an outside sound. Harmonic degrees in this scale are the tonic, the major 2nd or the 9th, the major 3rd, the augmented 4th or sharp 11th, the augmented 5th or flat 13th, and the minor 7th. The scale sounds like this over a plain dominant chord. Now I made a tutorial about this scale, so if you want to study this scale in depth, please watch this video on the Q Jam Tracks channel. The scale can be played over any dominant 7 chord in any situation, but keep in mind that it's an outside sounding scale, so lots of tangent notes due to the augmented 4th and 5th degree. Still, I like the sound very much. It's a matter of taste though. Now the altered scale is meant to be used over altered chords, where either the 5th or the 9th or both are altered to a flat 5 or sharp 5 and subsequently to a flat 9 or sharp 9. In a dominant 7 chord we have a perfect 5th and no 9th degree, so it's possible to use the altered scale over this chord. Still, it will take some time to make lines with this outside sounding scale. The altered scale or altered dominant scale is the 7th mode of the melodic minor scale. It is also referred to as the super Locrian mode. So when we want to play the A altered scale, we have to think of the B flat melodic minor scale. Starting on the 7th note of this B flat melodic minor scale, we have created an A super Locrian scale or A altered scale. In this scale we find the tonic, the minor 2nd or flat 9, the minor 3rd or sharp 9, the diminished 4th or major 3rd, the diminished 5th or sharp 11, the minor 6th or flat 13th, and the minor 7th. Now to quickly find the pattern of the altered scale, you could start the melodic minor scale a semitone higher than the tonic of the dominant chord you wish to improvise over. This scale contains all the altered notes, the flat 5, the flat 13th, the flat 9, and the sharp 9. So there will be lots of tension when improvising over this, with this scale over a dominant chord. Now here's an example of the scale over a chord progression where the scale is played over a dominant chord. Now, of all the 7 chords, the dominant 7 chord is probably the most interesting chord to improvise over because of the tension that these type of chords entail. And the amount of skills that can be used is comprehensive and above all diverse, as we have seen in this video. In the next video I will show you how specific arpeggios can outline the different skills covered in this lesson. Now, in this way you have 2 ways to get the sound you're looking for, through skills and through arpeggios. Now, I hope this video will get you on your way to improvise over these dominant chords. So you can color your improvisation like Kandinsky painted this yellow, red and blue. I see you next time in another crystal clear guitar tutorial right here on this QGentrax channel. Now, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell if you like to be updated whenever new videos are available. I say greets from the Netherlands and bye.